Evening guys, Maverick Veteran here, dressed as for remembrance as we mourn the sad passing of Dame Vera Lynn, the true forces sweetheart. And I would just like to pass my condolences on behalf of the veteran community onto the family and friends of Dame Vera Lynn. Sad day. And it does make you wonder how fate works and why she's actually passed away today. Could it be that she's just completely broken-hearted with what's going on with regard our history, our cenotaph and our statues, all in the name of Black Lives Matter? Now, there are some reports going around today that things have moved up a notch in the United States and that police officers that would normally diligently be going around the states doing their duties have walked off the job. Now, I'm waiting on more confirmation for that, but it appears they are walking from the police departments, handing their badges, etc. in. So we normally follow suit with the United States, so we'll see if our police do that and actually sort of grow a pair and stand up for what's right. Right, a bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to give you some information now, which is quite serious information. It's quite eye-opening information. And the information will, as the week proceeds, I know there's not much of it, but let's say in the following days, you're going to hear this exact same thing from other people in much higher, much important places than I am. I've got the endorsement of senior officers serving and senior officers retired, so veterans. So please let's not have what I had after Monday's live, where people start sending me messages saying you're talking a load of old rubbish, you shouldn't be spreading that sort around, you should be just ignoring everything. Well, I'm not one for ignoring anything. And if I am given some information that is for the good and the benefit of the veteran community, HM Armed Forces community, and the good people of the United Kingdom, then I'm going to pass it on, because people need to know. Today I was passed an email, and that email was written on the 5th of June of this year, so a few weeks ago, at 17:36 hours military time, 24-hour clock. It's taken from then to now for it to be leaked and for some very, very good friends of mine to fact check it in every single detail and confirm its validity. That validity can now be confirmed 100%. Now, the email is referenced discrimination, race and inequality. And basically what those three things mean for defence of our nation. Now, it says in the email that racial inequality has deep roots within our society and within defence. Now, during the 22 plus years that I served, I can't say that I saw any of that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but what I'm saying is I didn't witness any of that. Because when you're in the military, you rely on one another. You rely on the man to your left, you rely on the man to your right, and you rely on people having your back. if you start coming out with racial and discriminatory remarks, guess where the first round is going? Whoops, sorry, I missed. Now, we know that racism and discrimination shouldn't be going on anywhere, especially in a defence network. And it's all well and good sending out an email for that purpose, to clamp down on it, and if people are witness to it, to get it out there. That's all well and good. Now, it's worthy of note that the end of that email was signed off, sincerely, Stephen Lovegrove, Permanent Secretary. So he is the top man, the top civil servant in the Ministry of Defence. He has control of defence policy, or at least some of the policy, because some of that falls to the Secretary of State for Defence. Now, that's not really a big issue, is it? Until you look just below the signature block and it says hashtag Black Lives Matter. So you've now got an email which has become a defence document, and it's endorsing Black Lives Matter, BLM. Now, something needs to be said about this, I think, because this is quite a serious issue. Because you've got, as I said, the head of MOD policy as a civil servant. Civil servants are supposed to be non-political, remember? And he's endorsed Black Lives Matter, which we already know are part of the Islamic State. They're funded by George Soros, who's head of the media. And we know that the media likes to put a lot of fake news, propaganda, Goebbels type of stuff that was going around when Dame Vera was alive. God rest her soul. And we know from their manifesto that Black Lives Matter want to take apart the UK and any other country they can get their hands on. So it's a highly political, Marxist group of people using race to hide their real purpose. Now, obviously this now, with our knowledge that they want to dismantle the UK and everything that the UK stands for, and they're doing the same in the USA as well, plus other countries in the Western Hemisphere, the fact that that's been endorsed on an email by Stephen Lovegrove, that creates big issues now for Sir Mark Sedwill, who is basically, as we've said before, the head of everything, including national security. And it also affects big time our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who's head of government policy. But now it begs the question, is he really in charge of government policy? Or is government policy actually written and directed by the head man of everything, which is Sir Mark Sedwill, and his top civil servant in the MOD, Stephen Lovegrove? He's the main man of concern, I think, is Stephen Lovegrove, because he's the man that signed up to Black Lives Matter, endorsed it in a military document. So, defence and security is quite important, isn't it? And serious things are to be considered within defence and security to keep our nation strong, as we've been strong for hundreds of years. We've not had an invading force on these islands since 1066, but it's about to be blown out the water. Things that we need to consider that are going on at the moment, which are a little bit fishy. Recent treatment of our vets at the cenotaph on the past weekend, with the police facing our veterans down. And it's no good people saying it didn't happen, because it did happen. And the police have admitted that it happened. Now, we all know that the police have a job to do, and we as veterans respect the police because they're in the same line of work that we used to be in. And we can probably understand that they faced the veterans off because the veterans are the line of least resistance. As if they about turned 180 degrees, resistance would have been possibly futile because they probably weren't in large enough numbers to deal with it. Another thing to consider. Ben Wallace, Secretary of State for Defence, retired Scots Guards, I believe, so he's a veteran. Why is he not speaking out on any of this? Why do we never see him given support for the cenotaph, support for the Churchill Monument, etc.? What does he actually do, Ben Wallace? Does anybody know? We know what he's meant to do, but what does he do? The legacy pursuit of veterans of Northern Ireland. OTRs, or on-the-run letters, issued by Tony Blair to the terrorists are 100% valid, provided they don't break the law in the future, they're scot-free. But documentation that goes to the likes of Dennis Hutchins, Dave Holden and all the soldiers A to Z, plus the other 200 on top, saying you've been investigated, there's no case to answer. But they're not valid because they keep getting hauled over the coals and re-investigated. So why is there a disparity between an on-the-run letter being 100% valid and you've got no case to answer, you'll never hear from us again, being invalid? How can that be? EU military unification, something that I'm always strong about, as you know. Brexit doesn't make it go away because we're tied into the Lisbon Treaty. So come the last day of 2021, next year, we're full-blown part of the EU military system. Unless we can get rid of that Lisbon Treaty. Johnny Mercer, Minister for Veterans Affairs, has recently had removed all trace of him ever serving in the military from all the parliamentary papers. Why would he do that? Strange, isn't it? I'm proud to be a veteran. I want everybody to know that I'm a veteran. Why doesn't Johnny Mercer want people to know that he was a veteran? Is it perhaps because he doesn't support veterans? Is it perhaps somebody above him telling him you mustn't support veterans? are the veterans and possibly the serving military personnel, tri-service, being used as political currency, bargaining chips, pawns for something greater that we have as yet no knowledge? Or is it that the government fear the veterans because the balance of power in this country lies with the veterans? If the veterans want to vote against the government would be out and a new government would be in. Just like the veterans can vote a government in, as we did with Boris. Could it be that the British military is the next commodity to be sold off in a long line of things that have been sold off from the UK for as many years as I can remember? Things like steel and coal and manufacturing and car and aerospace production. Could the military actually be up for sale and run by those people in Brussels? What is the agenda? Well, we know the agenda of BLM as part of Antifa, which is pretty much how they are now, whichever way you cut it. And you only have to do your research to find out that Antifa is supporting BLM. And in their manifesto, which I'll share at the end of this, is we're going to dismantle Britain and anywhere else in the Western Hemisphere. I say again, is the security of this nation really less important than the BLM Antifa movement that today was putting death threats out on Twitter and YouTube, saying if any football fan or anybody for that matter comes to London again, we'll kill them, we'll spray bullets into the crowd? Why is nobody saying anything? Where is the Secretary of State for Defence? Where is Cressida Dick? Why isn't she saying, come on, police officers, get on the ground, do your job? Bottom line is, when a civil servant, a very high up civil servant, such as this man here, Stephen Lovegrove, head of the MOD, supports an organisation, endorses an organisation that has already stated that it wants to dismantle Britain and its military. Can't be right, can it? We've got to do something about this, haven't we? We've got to rise up as one and do something, haven't we? Initially on the political side of life, but this can't go away this can't be swept under the carpet, can it? Not like everything else gets swept under the carpet. We've been losing bits of our military for decades. For decades our military has been dismantled. Late 80s, just prior to the first Gulf War and the invasion of Kuwait, we had options for change. People being made redundant and then re-employed because suddenly we went to war and we needed them. Are they going to continue with this destruction of our military and the destruction of our sovereignty? I'll leave that with you. You'll be hearing more about this over the next few days, and like I say, it won't be from me. as the people that I've been speaking to the last couple of days, I fire from the hip and I go straight for the bullseye. I don't like pussyfooting round. I don't like dancing round maypoles, and I don't like walking about doing nothing. I like to be seen to be active, if you like. So that's where I'm at. In the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Stay safe. Look after each other. Again, condolences to the family and friends of Dame Vera Lynn. A great loss to this nation. And we can't afford to lose anything else. Love you all loads. This call sign is out.